Thanks for tuning into this episode of FinTech Focus TV, powered by Harrington Starr, the global leaders in financial technology recruitment. Head over to the Harrington Starr website where you'll be able to find all the latest jobs in financial technology across the globe. You'll also be able to download the latest issue of the Financial Technologist magazine, including the Top 1% Workplace Awards. Finally, if you're looking to grow your team, please get in touch. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today, I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to someone who I've been introduced recently to myself. Really interesting story, really interesting company. Michael Rood, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
Thank you so much, and pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be talking with you today.
I've heard great things from Steve, from Mike, from various others whose paths we've both crossed over the years. And it's exciting to hear you're on this new journey at the moment with Automated Data Inc. I think you call it ADI, and where you're going with the business. So I want to get into that. I want to get into the journey, your story, the vision. I think you're doing things in a slightly different way, which is going to be really interesting to hear a little bit more about as well. So we've got lots to get into today. Let's start off, though, with a little bit about you, your story, and where ADI comes from and what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is an interesting story because I'm not a data guy. I'm not a data engineer. I'm not a data scientist. So how I ended up in this spot is somewhat, it's not comical, but it's hopefully interesting. Most of my career was spent on Wall Street. Most of that time was spent at Goldman in electronic trading. I was on the product development side. Lived in Asia for a few years, had a great run there. Ended up spinning off a technology company called Ready. We ran that as a fintech for 4 years before we got acquired by Thomson Reuters, which became Refinitiv, which became LSEG, and I jumped ship and joined a company called Crux Informatics. And that was my first time where I wasn't in a regulated seat. Thank you very much. That was great. and that's when I started to learn a little bit about data and about data engineering. Left Crux earlier this year, actually late last year, to join a company called Opco Advisory. And that's where I got into the consulting space. And that's when I started getting dragged into a lot of these conversations around data challenges, specifically around data matching, data integration. And as we went down those conversations with various firms across the financial services industry, we started to come upon the crux of the problem, excuse the pun, but we heard a lot of interesting stories. We heard, hey, this is the biggest problem in data integration. We really need help. We heard fuzzy matching wasn't a scalable, adequate solution. People needed higher matching rates. They needed higher fidelity in their matching. Some believed that LLMs would save the world. Some believed AI would save the world, but we didn't believe any of that. And then you see all these trends around what's going on with AI, with large language models, with data-driven companies. And that's when the light bulb went off, because we saw all of these matching challenges across all of these firms. We saw existing technologies weren't working. The modern technologies weren't going to solve the problem. So you had all of these people across all of these firms writing bespoke code, Python or otherwise, to bring data together. And in most cases, it wasn't done in a way that was governance friendly. It wasn't DevOps friendly. It was just code running off in a corner, and God help you if these people get hit by a bus. So our light bulb was, let's build a platform that enables the data engineers to continue to write code, but to do it in a very governance friendly way that brings higher fidelity to the matching and brings higher quality and connectivity to the data itself. And by the way, the ultimate benefit of that is, as we head down this automation path, this data-driven path, this AI path, if you've got higher quality and richly connected data, that feeds nicely into that future paradigm as well. So that's how we ended up where we are, and that's why we built the platform that we built.
I love that. I love the way it's come through from that consulting sort of environment, and then seeing and hearing the problems. I think so many times it's people forcing technology down. And this is the beauty of not coming necessarily from, as you say, from a data background. I've said this a few times recently on the show. I think there's a lot more product-based people who are starting to build companies the right way, as opposed to out and out technical people who are necessarily solving problems through technology that don't necessarily need to be solved. And I love the fact that it's very client-led through what you're doing and how you're approaching it. So just coming back to that, you mentioned we a couple of times, and you talked about where it goes. Talk to me about the process for you? As you say, that you came from regulated big ticket backgrounds there to moving into sort of spin off fintechs, etc., through to coming more into this world. Talk to me about the journey as being what you could call a first time founder. How's that been for you? What's the we? What's the setup? How are you? Is it sort of friends and family? Are you funded? What's the story for how you're approaching things?
Yeah, I never thought I'd be sitting in this position in a tech startup for sure. So it's been crazy. It's been great. It's been super interesting. And yeah, I look back and I remember my days at Goldman or working at Refinitiv, and I'm in these large companies and I can't get anything done. And now we're a team of 6.
Yeah.
So it's great. We're really having
You're
a good
wearing a few shoes.
time. Exactly. Yeah, I'm literally the plumber and the electrician and the marketing guy and everything else. Yeah, so we started this company. I don't know what the right term is, but from my perspective, it's bootstrapped. Like we started with just a couple of folks that were passionate about the idea. Smart people can do things quickly. We iterated fast. We built a prototype fast. We got in front of clients fast, and we weren't spending a lot of money doing it. So in the early days, we just scrapped together a few dollars from angels just to pay the bills, if you will. Opco Advisory was one of the seed investors, so we were squatting in their space. So we were really scrappy. Once we got the MVP going, it was then time to get another round done that would get us to general availability, which, by the way, is this month. And so we've accumulated roughly 2.5 million in, I'll call it pre-seed money overall to help us. And now we have a really nice runway in front of us. We came out of stealth on May 1st with our first client. That client is LinkUp. They're an employment data company. So take a look at them. They're referenceable. And we're in red lines with a couple more. And I'm hopeful that by the end of the year, we'll have 5, 6, 7 clients that we're working with on this journey. It's still early days, to be honest. Like anyone who's signing up with us now is very much aware that they're signing up as a design partner, like they're going to be part of our build process, part of our journey. And I'm hopeful that as we accumulate those extra clients, we'll better learn how to onboard them and scale with them. How do we maximize customer success? And all of those things that are very much in our minds, but are very much towards a kind of an end of year thing. So just re-highlighting the point that we're scrappy, we're bootstrapped, and we're really trying to be customer led.
It's exciting, that, isn't it? As well, when you talk there about bringing customers in there who help shape it, I think that's just as much a opportunity for the customer as it is for you guys, right? It's important to get those right early customers. I've always been an investor into early technology in our space, in the recruitment space. So there's a number of different businesses that we've got into as client number 1 or 2. And I've really felt invested in helping them shape how we want to, do it, and being able to input that. And the partnerships have been really strong because of that over time. And I think for you, I look at a number of businesses recently who've been looking to raise at Series A or B or beyond. And I think the interesting part of it there, and the best ones who seem to be raising the best money at the right sort of stage with the right partners at the moment, are those who are actually doing it with their customers. And I was talking about it yesterday at the show I was they're talking to you about earlier on. There's some really good, I think, credibility about having a customer like you so much that they want to invest in it and be part of that solution at the same sort of stage. And I think you've got to think like that when you're at that sort of that bootstrap phase, as you say, where you're getting in this, it might not be investment, but you're talking about those customers. Those customers have got to be the right fit for you as much as the other way around as well. And it's about going on that shared journey, because the amount of information you can get from being customer led, as you say, that then allows you to really take that further forward and be the sort of company that your customers actually need, rather than telling them what they need to have. I think such an important aspect of where you're going with it all. So exciting times as to where it comes out. Now, I know you mentioned it and highlighted it there before, which was the journey for you to saying, this is the thing, this is where it's going to be. This is an opportunity for us from the consulting work, et cetera, et cetera. But talk to me about what really drove that conclusion that this needs to happen, because everyone can see a problem and walk past it and everyone can see it and say that's someone else's issue. But I'm always fascinated by people who then say, I'm going in on this, and this is something I can't afford to just walk by and let someone else see as an issue and come up with a solution for it. What was the thought process around that?
It's a great question. Yeah, it was just one of those things where, again, we were getting dragged into lots of conversations and you could just see the pain. And it was so ubiquitous. And it wasn't, the truth be told, this isn't limited to financial services, right? As I was building out this thesis and talking to friends and family about it, All of a sudden, a retailer reached out to us and said, we hear what you're doing and tell me more. And I thought that was going to be the biggest waste of time of the day, of the week, the month. And as we explained our approach to these matching problems, they're like, that's exactly what we need. Like, all right, now tick off the retail box. And then we ended up talking to a medical software company, same thing. We ended up talking to an AI company, same thing. And before you knew it, it was just so dead obvious to us, at
Yeah.
least, that I alluded to it earlier as a light bulb going off. It was literally a light bulb. We were actually naive enough in our early part of the journey to say this is an algorithmic problem. If we can build the best algorithm, we can solve this problem. We were quickly disabused of that. And that's what led us down the platform path, because we're like, everyone's going to write their own code. Every matching problem is its own rabbit hole. Everyone's going to want to use a little LLM. And the more we worked on it, the more we realized, no, this is an ensemble approach. You're going to need LLMs. You're going to need fuzzy sometimes. You're going to need exact match. You're going to need Levenstein. Like, all of these are valid, and they're valid for different reasons. You may even want to use an ensemble of them to solve a very specific problem. This is a platform problem, and it's ubiquitous. It's multi-vertical. And yeah, that was the process that we went through that got us to the aha.
I think when you look at those, the sort of stage there where it is something for everyone. I've been speaking to a couple of companies recently where they're saying, do we keep to our roots and stay in the financial services lane when we know this can be something there? You see it a lot at the moment with interoperability and businesses there that sort of can plug into various different areas and solve problems in the legal world or wherever else it may be at the same time too. How do you keep the discipline of knowing where to start with that when you're looking at a product that can help so many different areas? Are you starting in terms of market verticals, or are you going to go far and wide? What's your thought process in terms of how you approach the market?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I can assure you that my investors all ask me that same question to make sure that I was very, very consistent in our approach. No, every one of us comes from financial services. So we know the finance use case very well. We can speak intelligently to it. We can walk into any asset manager, investment bank, asset owner, and talk about things that matter to them, right? And with conviction and all the rest of it. So that's naturally where we're spending all of our time. I'm not proactively pursuing other verticals at this point, but they are finding me from time to time, and we're excited about that. Data's data, matching is matching. The platform will work, and so I'm mostly courting financial. And once we get our boots firmly planted in that vertical, then maybe we will try to branch out a little bit more aggressively. But I'm not wasting the cycles trying to go after too many things at once.
Yeah, I think that's the right call to move down that route. You mentioned before we came on air, you're doing things differently. It's a slightly different approach to how you guys are set up, about how you go into marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us a little bit about what that means and how you're differentiating yourselves.
Yeah, so first of all, I mentioned that everybody's writing their own code, right? Like the existing technologies just aren't working, and I won't disparage any specific quote unquote competitors. You have firms out there that are the best algorithm for a specific entity resolution problem, for example. And then you've got MDMs, for example, that are out there very focused on, say, the financial use case. And then you're stuck with their technology, you're stuck with their data models, you're stuck with their frameworks. There's little flexibility from what I've seen in terms of allowing you to work with any model, your models, their models, third-party models. So giving people that flexibility to leverage any technology to solve a matching use case, I have not seen. Then finally, bringing all of that together on a hyper-flexible technology that can run on-premise, in cloud, hybrid, connect to data at any source, wherever it is, connecting data at rest. You don't have to move data into a data lake to work with us. We can actually reach out to those data environments to start the connectivity process. It's the infinite in flexibility, right? So we're not asking anyone to do anything to work with us. Install the software, connect it to your data sources wherever they are, start doing the matching. And then again, you've got that central, where we really focus most of our energy is on the governance and controls. So bringing everything into a central framework for managing overrides, managing approvals, managing clusters. Those are the things that we're focused on, coupled with lineage and governance. So everything gets record ID, everything gets a cluster ID, everything gets recorded permanently. And that's not true just at the data element level, that's at the source. So I can manage lineage all the way to the source. which is important for a number of reasons. There's a firm that we're going into POC with now that has 50 operating units, and they want them to all be running independently. They want them to be running autonomously. That's the culture of this particular company. But the corporate parent still wants insight into the customer databases, for example, in each of those 50 companies. They can use our software to quickly and easily stitch all that together without causing anybody to do any additional work. Those are the sorts of use cases where we think we're really differentiating ourselves.
I think it's so important, isn't it, that what you said there is about simplicity, and I think simple is probably the hardest part of doing anything with regards to technology. And I think there's a lot of, we were talking again beforehand about how much interest there is in data at the moment, and I think it's going to be the buzzword for 2024. Right? I think it's long been on the agenda. I think it's becoming more and more important. I think people are recognizing more and more the potential of it. I think financial services has danced around it a little bit, where other sectors have probably, gone all in a little bit quicker, particularly when I look at e-commerce and such, and they've really got value from their data. I think financial services has probably danced around it a little while and lagged a little bit within that, predominantly because there's a lot of complexity around it. It feels like an area where there's loads of opportunity, but a lot of friction and hard work to get to the core of it. Yeah. And when you were just talking there about differentiating yourselves and giving a couple of those use cases within what you're doing, to me, it sounds like you've done the hard work of making a very complex thing seem very easy. Is that fair to say?
We certainly hope so. And that's the feedback that we're getting. Because again, we were meeting with someone from the medical industry yesterday, and this person just clearly got it. They were a subject matter expert. They were finishing our sentences for us. It was all just there. And it was—
You love those meetings, right?
Yeah, you love those meetings, right? Someone who knows what they're talking about is validating what you're doing is super helpful.
Yeah.
And they made the point that, look, if you need connected data and if you need high quality data that's feeding automation and downstream solutions, you've got to have governance around that. You've got to have a framework for managing that governance. You need data steward controls. All those things need to exist. Sure, go out and build it, or just come to us and buy it. So yeah, we're very focused on being a simplistic solution that solves complex problems so people don't have to build that stuff internally anymore.
Yeah. You mentioned as well the sort of size and shape of the team and wearing different hats and doing lots of different jobs at the moment. 6 of you in the team. Is that 6 people who've worked together in the past? And how does that split up? And how are you going out there as a team of that size and being able to go out and establish the credibility with the customers?
Yeah, everyone is, I'll call it a technologist except for me. I'm the only hand-wavy business guy. And we've all worked together in the past in some cases for many years. Mark Etherington is our CTO. He and I have worked together since the Goldman days. And so we know each other well. There's a tremendous amount of trust there, and we just work well together. And my focus is hire the no a-hole rule. I think you know what that means. And really focus on bringing people in that can have an immediate impact, are happy wearing multiple hats, are happy rolling up their sleeves and executing. Don't need any managers here quite yet. Thank you very much. So
it's interesting though, isn't it? Because you talk about that and talk about people who are ready to roll their sleeves up and do lots of different things. And there's sometimes a difficulty of people who come from the larger institutions who've been quite pigeonholed in what they're doing, who are obviously great within that environment. And anyone who's been at Goldman's for a long time is the cream of the crop as far as I'm concerned within that space. They hire incredibly well. We know the process of being able to get into that business. The quality and the talent density in that organization is second to none as far as I'm concerned. But you take people out of that organization, and quite often they really struggle with the lack of control and having, you mentioned before about having everything there for you. How are you looking at that and ensuring that people who've got that sort of background are able to thrive in a gritty startup environment?
I don't know that I have a good answer for that, but I'll tell you, Mark Etherington is, for better or for worse, again, he's our CTO. He's literally writing code every day. And I don't know that's ideally the best thing, but it is. Everyone is in the code. Everyone's working hard. I'm focusing on trying to bring in business and doing more of the admin-y type things, a little bit of product development. But to your point, it's just the reality of it. Like we've only got so many bodies. We need to get a lot of things done. That includes creating the corporation, getting our options agreements stood up, paying the bills, finding an accountant. Like we got to get all that stuff done, and it just is what it is.
It's fun though.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stop the complaining and get on with it. That's
No, I really enjoy it. I think it's such a good phase of a business, isn't it? Where you're there and you're doing lots of different things and you're going out and it's also new, which sort of moves us perfectly into the sort of vision as to where you're going and what it looks like. You started this up, you saw a problem, but you've done the bold move of kicking it off. It seems it's got its first clients in there. Sounds like an exciting runway in terms of the pipeline as well. Where does it go? What can we look forward to staying from the business?
Yeah, thank you. I think so. Look, our vision, if you will, is to enable companies to connect data across the enterprise. Internal data, external data, doesn't matter. The point is that if you have connected data, you can derive relationships, second, third, fourth order relationships, perhaps relationships that you weren't aware of before. When you have connected data, you can start deriving actionable insights. You can derive errors. You can understand where issues are in your data, but also associate with your data. So our goal is to connect the data, but not just connected. Our ultimate vision is install software, press button, and then the little bots just go out and start automatically interrogating schemas, interrogating field definitions, interrogating some level of semantic understanding of the data itself. So the engine, the brain can start to see, okay, I see company name there, I see C name over there. They look like they have similar contents. I can probably match those. Hey, I can even recommend to you what algorithm might be best for matching or what ensemble might be best for matching. That's our vision, right? So it's almost like empowering the data citizen. So I don't need an army of expensive data engineers and data scientists to do the drudgery of data matching. I can get to a world where the citizen, the data citizen, can do that work. And the data engineers and data scientists are actually focused on higher order brain functions. That's how we think of it. And if we do that, you want to build an LLM model internally or externally on your data, you're going to need to solve the solution I just described. So that's the vision that we're on. They're still in stealth, so I can't say their name, but we recently just signed paperwork with an AI shop who very much shares our vision. Now, they're very focused on unstructured data, but we do see a world where you can take unstructured data, structured data, and just automatically tag it, get the ontology in place, get the semantics in place, automate the matching process, create knowledge out of the data that you've got, and that can then feed all your downstream systems. That's the journey that we're on.
What I love about what you just mentioned there is there's a lot actually that I really enjoyed about hearing that, because I think it just touches so many of the issues that I hear about in the industry that people are looking for. And if you look at a product and you say, what are the golden ingredients of it all? We've spoken about the friction reduction of complex to simple, but we're also looking for efficiency and productivity and all of those sort of things. And actually what you're talking about there is allowing highly paid, highly skilled data scientists to go out there and do the things which really make a difference rather than the mundane, within all of that. And that to me is a tremendous benchmark for what's making people successful. The other side of things there, which you touched on at the end, is I think one of the most important parts of startup success at the moment is your ability to work in partnerships. And I think that role of partnerships has been such a vital part recently of the companies that I've seen get traction and are able to grow. Because it used to be my toys, my solution, don't want to share my toys, et cetera, et cetera. And now I think people have recognized that sort of power of providing solutions that don't have to be everything to everyone, and how you can get that patchwork of opportunities of bringing people into it. The conference I was at yesterday had the CTO, Kepler Chevreau, talking about making sure that he doesn't mind about how many technologies. He wants to have something there which doesn't necessarily have all the risk in one particular pot with regards to a vendor as well.
Yep.
And I think it's really good. That's an initial part of the whole thought process and the vision of the business, is to make sure that it's working with like-minded people to solve a problem that's a piece of the jigsaw that can become the whole jigsaw alongside it as well.
So, yeah, spot on. One of the complaints that I received early on in our journey was we're solving too narrow a problem. I acknowledge that's a possibility, but the reality is, because there's no screwdriver, for lack of a better expression, to solve this problem with precision, there's a lot of general solutions out there, a ton of them. But we have not found anyone who's going after this with a screwdriver, and that's what we're coming after. And like you said, I'll gladly partner with all of the major firms. We're already integrated with Fivetran. We're already integrated with Snowflake. We're already integrated with Databricks, and we'll keep going. And we just want to be a piece of that puzzle, a utility of that puzzle.
It's so important to think of it like that as well, isn't it? And then I think that it goes back to what you were saying right at the very start, is this is a company that was built out of a recurring problem that was universal in everyone you're talking to. So if there are general companies who are solving general problems, and this is a bit which is being overlooked, then you need a screwdriver to put this furniture together at various different phases. So I think it becomes very exciting as to where you're going with it.
Awesome.
I told you that half an hour ago quickly, and it has. Time flies when you're having fun and talking about cool stuff. And to me, there's nothing cooler than seeing businesses at your stage going through that sort of journey and having that success as quickly as you're having it as well with it. So I'm really excited to see it continue to grow and develop as well. But I always want to, in fact, I'm going to extend our chat a little bit further and go over time, because I think there's two things I want to talk about. The second part of it, which we'll come on to as a second, is who you should be speaking to, or who should be speaking to you right now, and the best way for them to get in touch with it. Before that, like I said, I'm a massive fan and a storyteller. I love listening to people and learning from people who are going through journeys. I've had the great pleasure and luck to speak to some amazing people on this show and help to share their stories about going through things and starting up. So that you're there, there'll be people there who are right at the very start of their journey at the moment, who are just launching their businesses, et cetera, who've come into the same sort of conclusion as you did, that there's a problem here and this is the time to go out there and start something and solve it. From where you've been so far in the journey of the business, what are some of the pearls of wisdom that you give to an entrepreneur, first-time founder who's about to start up, based on the journey that you've been on so far?
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
throwing this at you with zero preparation for it as well. So I know this is a tough one to catch, but
It's such a great question. I wish I had someone to tell me this, what I'm about to tell you. Definitely go after more money from an investing standpoint than you think you need, because everything's going to take longer and cost more than you anticipate. And that takes longer is critical. Entrepreneurs are going to be, I think generally the human race is optimistic, right? Sure, there are pessimistic people, but most of us are glass half full, not half empty. We're optimistic on what we can accomplish and on what time scale. You're wrong. It's going to take longer. And if you think there are people waiting to sign order forms from you, you're going to fall into their bureaucratic processes, and that stuff is just what it is. And all of that's going to take longer than you anticipate. So getting the money right is important. I think getting your timelines in check are important, and keep the optimism, keep the optimistic perspective, because that's going to keep you running.
yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think the trait of optimism in an entrepreneur is a critical one as well. And I remember when we started this business 13 years ago, and I was going through business plans and utilizing the advice of my father-in-law, who'd been a long time multi-series entrepreneur, various parts of it. And when we came up with the business plan, he said, look, the similar wisdom that you just shared there, he said, halve what you expect to do and double the cost of everything you expect to do. And when we sat there, we're ahead of everything that we in that first year. We doubled it, but the weight of relief that gave to you to be ahead of everything rather than chasing something, I think is incredibly important as well, because I do think that everyone who isn't, starting a business will by nature be optimistic about where they want to go. But that's a real curse at various stages too. And I think that ability just to sit there and say, look, we wrote off the first three months of when we did a business, and within 2 weeks we've done our first placement as a company. And the ability to be ahead of things all the way through that first year was such a blessing, I think, and because of it, and to be profitable way quicker than we thought we would be, and to use half the investment we thought we needed, always gave us that sort of real lack of pressure, which I think you need to make not desperate decisions when you're starting a business. And if you can have that sort of runway, it's such an easier place to be, to allow you to do the right things the right way. So yeah, great wisdom to share. Thank you so much for doing that. So let's finish up with that thing. Who should be reaching out to you? Who can you help at the moment? And what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, no, thank you for that too. So where we've had success is not where I anticipated it, right? So we're having success with data suppliers. LinkUp is our first client, who I think will be our second client, is also a data supplier that wants to cluster a bunch of data. So in that case, you're talking about people that are probably more revenue and product facing on the data supplier side. They've got new data products that they need to launch, and they need help getting that connected, high quality data out to their customers. So in that case, it's the product and the revenue folks. On the data consumer side, it's usually more of a data engineer / data scientist, at least as of right now. Over time, I think we'll get better at communicating to the business users the value of what we bring to the table that helps solve their business problems. We haven't made it there yet. So we're currently mostly talking to the CDOs, the chief data officers, the chief data scientists, in some cases, the technology folks, because they definitely get what we do. We explain what we're doing. They're like, yep, okay, I either have that problem or I don't. And that's a quick litmus test for us. Does that make sense?
It does perfect sense. Absolutely. And for them to reach out to you, what's the best way? We'll obviously tag you in on LinkedIn when we release this, but what's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch?
No, thank you. It's mrude, MRUDE at automated-data.io. And I really appreciate the time and just the opportunity to talk through this with you. It's a lot of fun.
I've enjoyed it. I get a tremendous amount of joy from doing these interviews. And I particularly do that when I can see people who are passionate and excited about where they're going, doing things with different ideas, doing things slightly differently. It always energizes me. We're doing this on a Friday afternoon, and I'm going to leave this phone call with a big smile on my face, just enjoying and being excited about you and your journey. So I'm looking forward to coming out soon. I'm looking forward to meeting you when I'm out there. Very best of luck with everything you're doing. And it sounds like you're on a great journey. Thanks so much for sharing it with us today, and very best of luck with everything.
Awesome. Terrific. Thank you so much. Have a good
My
weekend.
pleasure. And you too. And thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.